Good afternoon. In this video, we're going to go over this week's options watch list. Before I can get into the watch list, if you're new to the room, you can find the link in the description of the video and in my bio section of social media account. Also, please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. Now, we get a full week of trading this week, obviously. Get a few things going on. The economic calendar, Monday, don't got much going on. No really news. Tuesday, we get some FOMC speakers. There are ones at 1:30 and a couple are in the night. I mean, the evening, that's not going to really matter. Wednesday, we get CPI at 8:30 Wednesday morning. Then we get FOMC at 2 p.m. Now there's no Powell, so this FOMC will end up being a good one because the SPX will be cheaper. We can get them at the money. Even if SPY only moves $1 or $2, they will do really, really well. I prefer FOMC on non-Powell days because of that. We still get a good move, but instead of playing 100 points out, we're going to be playing at the money. They'll be much cheaper. You can get them for about $5 or $6 versus at the money is usually right around 20. It's kind of crazy when there is when Powell's speaking, how they can go from 5 or 6 to 20 at the money when they're at the money before Powell speaks. It's just the implied volatility is just ridiculous on Powell days. So FOMC Wednesday definitely would be a good day. With the, like I said, the CPI numbers come out in the morning. Then we get PPI on Thursday morning. So we get some good data coming out. And unemployment claims on Thursday morning. And Friday morning we have core retail sales. So we get some numbers coming out this week. So it should be a pretty volatile week. We'll have to see what happens with that. Now the put-to-call ratio doesn't look anything spectacular. So I'm not even going to cover that. But we got earnings coming up in the next couple of weeks. So we'll have to see what happens. VIX is right down at support, right down at that $8 area. If it breaks below that, now it can break below that and quickly get bought back up. So VIX can go as low as $15. So don't think because it's at 18 it has to pop. It doesn't have to do anything. The more it's compressed down, the more violent bounce will be. Because like right here, it bounced up pretty hard right there. We get a lot of things going on with China and Taiwan, and China having the military exercises surrounding Taiwan and saying it's an exercise, kind of like what Russia did with the Ukraine, and then who knows? It could end. Something could actually end up happening. I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. So a lot going on. More banks. Banks could see more banks in trouble, and so could be interesting. So don't think that because VIX is right at the support that it can't go to 15 because it can. We'll have to see what happens. So we'll play it day by day. The lower it goes, the more I'm interested in it. So it gets underneath the 16, even 17, I'll even start looking ahead a little bit. So VIX definitely could end up seeing a bounce. If it keeps on this trend line, could definitely see a bounce to $28 if it does end up coming down here more. So SPY. Now SPY it just likes any amount of hope it can get to go. And we got earnings coming up, so maybe we'll get some excitement about earnings. Saying that there's if there's hope about earnings being good, SPY is going to try to run. Now everyone is looking at this. Everyone and their mother is looking at this. You get inverted head and shoulders on the weekly. You get the left, the head, and the right shoulder. I still think what's going to end up happening, I said it last week, and I still think it's going to end up happening, is that we're going to get a little bit of a pop to get everybody long. Then we're going to pull back. Then we're going to have that pop initially down the road. I don't think we're going to just go straight up. I think we may pop a little bit to like maybe 415, maybe even 420 to get people excited and think that we're going to have a massive breakout. Then we could end up seeing it pull back down to the 400 area, then end up going, then ripping up. at some point, but you rarely ever see a straight shot because it's too predictable. Too many people are looking at it. Kind of like over here, where is it? Like right here. You got a head and shoulders, you get the left, you get the head, and you get the right shoulder. They got everybody in right here, broke below. Yeah, it dropped, then it popped back up, then it initially dropped. So I think we're going to get this kind of a move over here that will probably break out of this area just enough to get people in the pullback. So they got people in short right here, and it dropped a little bit. We got a little bit of a move from 420 down to like 410. Then it bounced hard right here. Then it actually ended up dropping later on. So I think that whenever you have a really, really defined weekly or even daily pattern where it's very, very well defined like it is here, that you're going to see a little bit of shenanigans at the breakout levels or breakdown levels, both breakout levels this time, before the actual move happens. So I'm thinking that we will end up probably pushing up to probably maybe 420 before we start to pull back. But we could end up pulling back at 410. We got some resistance right here at 415 and 420. So we get some room to move up on a little bit of ER hopium. So unless something happens with China or a bank or any other events that's going on in the world with the yen and oil and stuff like that. I mean, who knows? There's so many things, unknowns going on right now that one or two things could happen and the market could just take a massive dive. We haven't heard much about North Korea. I mean, North Korea could end up doing something. I don't know. There's just a lot of things, a lot of unknowns right now. So thing is, we got to push the 420, but we'll also be watching it underneath the 405 area for push down to 400. We get some gaps down here that need to be filled right underneath 400. Down to the 396 area. So we get a gap fill right here and a little bit of a gap right here, right at the 404 area. So we get some gaps to fill on the way down. So we'll have to see what happens. Literally, it's going to depend on the news and what happens overnight. So hopefully we won't get no massive gap ups and choppy days, gap ups, or we get like $5 or $6 gap up or gap downs, and when the market opens we get a small tight range. I really hate those kind of days because it's kind of annoying. So SPY will be watching both sides. We'll be watching both sides on SPY, taking it day by day. I call the plays out in the morning, pre-market, what I'm looking at, stuff like that. So definitely could flip a coin right here, but I still think we're going to push up. Now on Apple, on the other hand, got some interesting things on Apple. Apple is right at the RCT trend line, a little bit right here. I mean, it's up. I guess it's got a little ways to go, but you get this weekly downtrend right here. I put the line on the map so everybody can see. You can see the wick here, wick here. You get a lot of going against Apple right here. We get the top of the calendar channel, we get the RCT trend line, and we get the weekly trend line. So I don't think we're going to see much of Apple. I think Apple's pretty much going to have a short-term pullback. So I would watch it underneath 162 for gap fill down here to 160, 157. 157, 158 is going to be a pretty big significant area for it to hold. It's a pivot right here. It's support, resistance, resistance. So it's going to be a pretty big area. And then you get the RCT trend line right down here at 153. 154 is a big area too right here. Get some resistance here on the bodies right there and right here. You can see resistance, resistance here, but it's support right here. So we get some areas to watch, the 158, 155. So definitely get some areas on the downside for Apple. Now Apple could end up taking off. Apple's notorious for lowering guidance, telling everybody that their sales are going to be down, their guidance is not going to be good. Then when ER drops, it beats the lowered guidance or the lowered expectations and ends up raging. Apple does this all the time. It's kind of stupid, but it does it almost every single time. They put out the caution that ER could be bad, and then when they lower the expectations, they ends up raging. So if you can't hit the ball over the net, you just lower the net. That's what Apple's theory is, and that's what they do. It's kind of stupid, but it is what it is. So we get some gap fills on Apple. I already explained what I'm looking at for Apple. Amazon. Now, Amazon, I'm kind of thinking that if it ever loads, that we could get a push because the weekly chart's starting to look pretty good. I would watch it over 104. If it gets a push over 104, we're going to push to 110 to 115. Did it fill this gap right here? It did. It filled that gap right there. We get a little bit of a gap right there. Tiny, tiny one around 114. We're around 114, 115, a little bit of a gap, but Amazon sales could end up being good. They haven't been that good the last time I think they missed, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it looks like they. Yeah, it was this time they missed right here. So I don't know. I think that we're gonna see Amazon pop for earnings and probably a run up. So I will watch Amazon over 10. You can even go over Friday's high. Go over 104. It's over 104 for push to 105 to 110 to 115 to 120. If we get a big move out of that, RCT trend line on the weekly is at 115. So we definitely got room up to 115 if it decides to push. BA. If it loads, still in the weekly channel, still in this 200, we'll say 195 to 220. It's still in that range. It's got rejected right here. So I would watch underneath 208. You can even say 208.50. For push down 205, 200. Then you get a little bit of gap fill right here at 198 and 195. So we could stay in this range. It's been staying in this range for the entire year so far. So eventually it's going to break out of it. Now, what's going to do, when it's going to break out of it, I have no idea. It might need a solid earnings or a bad earnings to get out of this channel. We'll have to see, but right until now, just play the channel 220 to 195. If the market dumps, BA could dump with it. But if something escalates with China or in Taiwan, that BA may actually end up popping on that because aircraft, defense end up doing pretty good for those kind of situations if something breaks out. But I'm still thinking that we're going to stay in this range until something takes us out of it, like earnings or something. Even earnings didn't take it out this time. Right here, it stayed in it. So something's going to end up happening with BA. It's been in this range for way too long. What, 4 months? 4 months plus. It's got to get out of it. So definitely think lower. So, but I mean, it could actually break out. I mean, if it does manage to get over 220, we could end up seeing a strong push to 240 or something. So definitely keep an eye on that. Definitely either way, under 208 or over 220. I mean, you could even say 215 if you want to, 214 or under 208 on BA. I think we're going to go lower, but I could be wrong. We'll see what happens. Take it day by day. The news will dictate where it's going to go. Now, NVIDIA is still outside the Keltner channel on the daily. I mean, look at right here. On the weekly, I mean. Full body, the red candle right here, but it's still a full body outside the Keltner channel right here. Did the same thing, green candle, red candle, red candle, 2 red candles outside the Keltner channel before it came back in. So we definitely got some room to drop. We got room down here to the 226 area to drop if it does, but it could keep going. I mean, this could end up being a continuation candle like right here where it does this and just pushes more, but being a full body candles outside the Keltner channel, I don't think that's going to end up happening. It's either going to chop and bring the Keltner channel up more, or it's going to come back down into it, down to the 240 to even 225 area. So NVIDIA, definitely keep an eye on that underneath the I could say 265 or 266, 265 for push down to 260. 255, 250, 245, basically every $5 on NVIDIA. Tesla. Tesla, I mean, it did have a little bit of a pullback on the weekly. Got a red candle right here. Pull back on the daily, a few candles in a row. I actually thought it was probably gonna. I thought it was gonna break out right here, but it didn't. But it could also be setting up for an inverted head and shoulders. Get a left shoulder, head, possible right shoulder right here. It gets back up to the 208 level, 210. Could end up seeing a strong move. So earnings probably could play a big portion of that. So it's kind of hovering around the middle of the Kellner channel right here, the 200 EMA on the weekly. So my throat is killing me. So yeah, it did bounce off the 180, which is right here. So I'm looking at it from the long side. I mean, I just don't think. I think the earnings on Tesla are going to end up being pretty good. We're probably going to get some hopium, hope, because I saw an article the other day that they expected Tesla to have like record sales again or something like that. And you get a nice big cup and handle. Look at the cup and the handle right here. I mean, it's got this red candle right here, but it could come back up to the top of this 210 level, this cup and handle area and break out. So that's why I'm thinking that we could end up breaking out just on the hopes on Tesla. And Meta's just been in the news, laying people off and focusing more on AI than actually the metaverse. So Zuckerberg doesn't really have a clue what he's doing. He's kind of seems like he's a lost puppy right now. But same thing as NVIDIA. Got full body candles outside the Kellner channel. Does not like to do this. It likes to come back in. So I watch it underneath the, you could say the 210 level. Gets under 210. You get, let's see, you get this 205, 200. Good gap fill right here at the 201, 202 area. 200, 195, 190. You get a gap fill down here at 185. To me, I just think, I almost said Facebook. Meta is getting out of control a little bit. I mean, definitely can go higher, but I mean, look at the weekly RSI is getting overbought and outside the Kellner channel on the weekly. I don't like seeing that because it usually likes to pull back in, like right here, outside and to pull back in, test the 20 EMA, which is the middle Kellner channel on the daily. Then it popped back up, came back in, tested again. I think it's going to at least come down to 200 or so, because that will definitely set up 200s right here, but also we get the RCT trend line and middle Kellner channel at 175 on the weekly. So it's got room to drop a little bit, but it can keep going. But you just don't normally see full body candles outside the Kellner channel keep going. They can, it's rare, but plus you have a bearish divergence going on the daily. It's making higher highs, and RSI is making lower highs. So got a lot going against Meta right now. Screaming bearish divergence, but divergences can go on for weeks, months. We've seen them in Baidu, we've seen them in Roku, where I was calling them for like weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, and finally we had that massive dive. But remember, just because you see a divergence doesn't mean it's an automatic buy. The divergences can last for weeks, even months. So don't jump into it prematurely. Wait for areas to break, then jump into it. So that's going to be for the watch list, and hope to see you in the room. Thanks for watching.